I flipped it in a double.
And it's, hey y'all, glad you're here. Chasing relevance.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Chasing Relevance, Episode 2. Today we're going to talk about ourselves a little bit. So, ER, what are you thinking?
Man, I think it's just a great opportunity for us to share about kind of just a little bit of our background, just where we come from, where we've been, and kind of what has molded and shaped our perception and our thoughts on things. And I think that's really important and relevant to what we got going on here and
Sure.
what's led us to this point.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I could start by saying I'm old. I turned 50 years old. I'm going to be 51 in May.
Yeah.
And,
50 club, buddy.
What's that?
You're part of the 50 club.
I am. Yeah. And
that's a good one.
And I'm not ashamed to say that has really changed my perspective in a good way. I think I have more value on time and what that really means. But so anyway, to kind of run through this real quick, I was a class of 1987. I received my diploma in 89. So we'll talk about that on a different episode.
All right.
That's a 2-year span of some craziness. Anyway, right out of high school, I went to work. I worked a lot of different jobs, mainly just labor. I worked in a brickyard. I worked in a blue jean manufacturing plant. I worked in a pork processing plant. I bartended. And then
blue jeans.
Blue
jeans.
What?
What?
Lee's.
Lee's
and plain pockets and whatever the brand was that Sears had.
Nice.
Yeah. Place was called JW Denim.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that. And I my job was to press the jeans with these huge steam tables. 8 hours a day. It was brutal.
That sounds sweet.
It was a lot of fun. and the fun didn't really change all that much when I went to the pork processing plant. I stood in the same place all day, every day, and made the same motion 3,000 times a day.
Yeah.
And that got old real quick. Anyway, I kind of went into bartending, and then my cousin called me one day, and he's like, "Hey, I'm working for this new company. This guy started a new computer company called Gateway 2000, and we need help, and there's only about 6 of us right now." And I said, "No, that's okay, thanks."
That's good.
And I passed on it. And a couple of years later, I find they're blowing up,
right?
And they're getting huge. So I was badge number 674 at Gateway 2000, and I started in customer service. Went into the sales side when we started a new division, and I spent a few years there, a couple of years, 2-3 years there. Got married and had my firstborn in 91. And then realized that I was still young and dumb. And
how old were you when you got married?
I was 20.
20.
20 years.
Firstborn around 20.
22.
22.
Yep, I was 22. Yeah. Got married in 89, and Jordan was born in 91.
Yeah.
Yep. And oddly, got divorced in 92. And like I said, young and dumb and thinking I wasn't ready to settle down. And so then I met someone else and decided, in the interim there that it was time for me to kind of fulfill the family history of military service and decided to join the Army. Joined the Army in 93, got married before I did. And I was in the United States Army with the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg from 93 to 96.
You were in the Airborne Division?
I was, yep.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had hoped that was going to be my career move, for the rest of my life. I got injured. They said, "Yeah, you're probably not doing what you've been doing anymore. So you either got to kind of find a new job or something else to do." And so I kind of rode that out and got out in 96. During that time, however, I decided that I didn't want to be married again. And it was a moment there where you kind of faced your mortality in the military, even in peacetime. You just have to realize that that's a possibility, and started thinking, yeah, maybe I made a mistake in divorcing my first wife. And said, hey, I don't want to be married anymore. We had a child. So, and I have 2 daughters at that time. And called my first wife and said, hey, I think I made a mistake. And she said, yeah, I think you did. And so we got back together in 94, 5, had another daughter. So now I've got 3 in December of 95. I know I'm getting out in 96. And so we get out of the Army and we moved to Connecticut. That's where her family's from.
I gotcha.
At least half of her family. Her father's family. They were a big Italian family from the Northeast. And I kind of fell in love with the Northeast. I had spent some time in Vermont and things like that. So we moved to Connecticut. Became a little too fast paced for me. We were only a couple hours outside of New York City. I enjoyed the time there, but we both knew that wasn't really the right place for us. So we decided we're going to head back to the Midwest, moved back to Nebraska in like 97-ish, and started working for a large beef processing company, working their IT help desk, helping people figure out what's wrong with their computers and things like that. I spent 3.5, 4 years there, worked my way up to a system administrator, had my son in 99, who is about to turn 21 this year. And it was a good experience. That was my first real experience in corporate America, and how that all kind of plays out in the politics and things like that. I actually did pretty well. I just didn't like it. Sitting at a desk all day, every day, I felt like I was dying slowly, coming from a military background and being so active on a daily basis and all that. So on a side note, at that point in time, I had become kind of a crazy guy. I wasn't a great husband, wasn't a great father. Decided, hey, I need to be alone again. Third divorce. 2000, I think that was in 2000. And, I had my moments of being a good dad and a good father and things like that. Just wasn't in the right place, and wasn't fulfilling those roles the way I should have been. So 2001, I met my current wife. Yay, I stayed married. I struggled for the next few years professionally. Didn't really know what I was doing. 2004 rolls around. My wife is working in hospitality. I was kind of struggling with marketing and advertising agencies, things like that. 2004, our youngest daughter's born. So there's the hers, mine, and ours now, and Tess is ours. And the job moved us from South Dakota to Fort Collins. Spent a little more time in advertising, moved back to Nebraska, Omaha, much bigger city, bigger market, different vibe, and got into retail just for lack of anything better to do, and not really knowing what I wanted to do. It was kind of a placeholder for me. So worked in retail for I'd say a couple of years, department manager, things like that. And the job opened up or a friend of mine became the general manager of a new hotel that was opening up down in Omaha downtown, which was still very much under development, especially where this location was on the northern side of downtown. At that time, they'd been talking about moving the College World Series stadium and building a new one. And so that was in the works. So some of the smart developers started developing around that, built this hotel, 100-room hotel, not big, had a 10,000 square foot water resort attached to it. And so I got the job as the director of sales and marketing. And so from the time they broke ground to the time they opened, And shortly after that, that was my job. And that was a lot of fun. I got to work with, the College World Series staff, and Creighton University was close by, so we did a lot of work with them. We had some major global companies like Gallup and ConAgra and Union Pacific, things like that. So with the corporate travel in downtown Omaha, I negotiated a bunch of contracts and things like that for when they had people coming in and out of town. And that was fun. And that was up until about 2009. And then things kind of went in the tank. My wife was a regional director of sales and marketing for a hotel chain or a hotel ownership group. So she had hotels all the way from Massachusetts, New Jersey, all the way to Denver, Chicago, Kansas City, all that kind of stuff. She was traveling quite a bit. When the economy kind of took a downturn, they basically eliminated a lot of that, a lot of her department. The whole regional things became much more local. And so we didn't have much of that regional management in place. And so they kind of eliminated that. So we were both basically out of work at the same time. And it was a race to see who could get a job first. And she won. And that's basically 2009, what brought us to Idaho. She had been to Boise on a couple of different training facility or training trips, and really liked it. Kind of reminded her of downtown Fort Collins. And so she said, hey, she talked to her recruiter. She said, hey, I either want some mountains or I want an ocean, one or the other. And they said, well, how about Boise? And she said, yep, been there, like it. Went and did the interview, got the job, and then said, hey, we're moving to Boise. And I was like, well, I've never been there. She's like, well, you're going. You're going to be there now. And so summer 2009, packed up the 4-year-old at the time, drove out, fell in love with Boise once I got there. And that was kind of the start of my career in high-end corporate event management. I met a couple of guys that go ahead.
But you got to mention when you were driving across Southeast Idaho. You got to mention of kind of like first impressions, like
that was not the right route to take into Idaho for me. My wife had said, Boise's a lot like Fort Collins. You're going to love it. Sits in the foothills. Mountains are right there. All the different seasons that we love. And so I'm like, cool, let's do it. And head out with the 4-year-old. Western Wyoming's beautiful. Northern Utah is beautiful. And as soon as you turn up into that Preston part of Idaho, it turns very similar to Iowa and Nebraska.
Right.
And so I called my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm in Idaho and I don't see a single mountain. She's like, just wait till you get here. I'm like, okay. So we're driving and another few hours passes by and I can see them off in the distance to the north, but they're pretty far away. Get to Mountain Home. There isn't a mountain to be seen. And I called her again. I'm like, hey, we're going to be here a year and then we're gone. I said, this isn't what I signed up for. Not what I thought it was going to be. She's like, just wait till you get here. And it's literally on I-84, 3 or 4 miles outside of Boise. You take this curve to the right under an overpass. And as soon as you get under the overpass, it opens up to the valley and you can see the city and the foothills and Bogus Basin and Table Rock and all that. And it's breathtaking. It really is beautiful. Yeah. And my mind was then put at ease. And we had the opportunity, being new until we found a new place to live. We actually lived in the Grove Hotel for about 30 days while we found a house. And so we got Boise, like the core of Boise, downtown Boise, for the first 3 or 4 weeks that we lived in Idaho. And so I immediately fell in love with the whole downtown vibe and the Alive After Fives and the music and all that kind of thing. It was phenomenal, and absolutely loved it. And I really do love Boise, but met a couple guys that were had some common interests at the time that I did, and they just happened to be in high-end corporate event management. this quiet little company in downtown Boise. They had 3 employees at the time, and I just kind of started hanging around with them and spending more time. And they're like, hey, why don't you come help us out on a couple of events and see how you like it, and we'll see how we like you and things like that. And that was kind of the start. And so I spent about 5 years then with TMN Events, and doing every kind of corporate event you could think of, from, high-end golf outings at Pebble Beach to Sundance Film Festival and corporations like, HP and Microsoft.
Man, how cool is that?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, man. A lot of fun. Got to meet unbelievable people.
Amazing
that were at the height of their careers in their respective industries.
Oh yeah,
were real global industry leaders. It was fun. I learned a ton. I learned a ton about myself. Learned a ton about what it entails to be in that kind of a high-end service industry. It was amazing. And I had a lot of fun with that. I really enjoyed it.
What are just some of the names, just for fun here? What are some of the names of people you actually got to cross paths with?
Oh, well, I mean, we managed the presence of a lot of the C-level employees. So, like good friends of mine was driving Meg Whitman from HP, and Oprah Winfrey when she was there, and I had the opportunity to work with Tony Robbins and his whole crew a couple of different times. Unbelievable experience. And just the people that he draws that want to be around him are amazing. And it's funny because a lot of people think it's kind of not cultish, but they think it's kind of a hokey deal, this whole self-motivation or motivational speaking and things like that. But I'm telling you, the people that are there and that actually embrace it and engage it are some of the most successful people you'll ever meet.
Right.
Any industry, doesn't matter what it is. They have the mindset and the drive that nothing stops them. And he brought in people that were, again, visionary global leaders and thought leaders. Peter Diamandis and Steve Forbes and Ray Kurzweil, T. Boone Pickens, just people that are unbelievably innovative and they're just amazing.
What a neat opportunity in your life, though, during that really time to be able to be in that environment.
It was by far the most impactful 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
No question. And then just being around Sundance Film Festival and a lot of those film premieres and things, you run into and shake hands, but you don't really meet. You just kind of greet and say hey to guys like Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, or Elon Musk when he had his documentary out. Just crazy crossing paths of people. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. It did become kind of wearing because of the travel. I traveled a ton.
Yeah.
And so, when the opportunity came for the move to McCall for my wife, which had always been kind of in the back of our minds, a semi goal. We loved McCall, and we thought that's where we'd love to raise our family and kind of be. And so when that kind of came up, I said, it's a good time to maybe step back from this kind of crazy lifestyle that I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years, because I had missed a lot with my kids at the time and things like that. So it was a perfect time for me to re-engage with the family and become better at what I wanted to do and be. Yeah. And so we've been in McCall now for 5 years now. And
nice.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. The school, the community, and like anybody else right now, we're struggling just like everybody else with shutdowns and quarantines and all that. But I feel like we're a pretty tight-knit community and we take care of each other.
Yeah. Man, that's cool. That's good stuff.
It is.
The atmosphere you were in and some of those people you mentioned, like, I don't even know who some of those people are, to be honest with you. I just know that they're movers and shakers, right?
They are. Yeah.
Sure. And it kind of reminds me of that whole of, you are what you're around. I mean,
no question.
And being around people who are getting it done.
Yep.
It rubs off, and that's a big deal.
Yes, I agree 100%. Yep.
Um,
And so when I got to McCall, I spent the first few months kind of figuring out what I want to do. Real quick, I spent like I want to say 3 summers working with at McCall Aviation, and that was another completely different experience, but just as valuable in private aviation, backcountry aviation, and I was the assistant general manager there. So I ran a lot of the customer service and customer facing aspects of the company, whether it was from fueling or in catering for private jets and things like that, because McCall is a resort destination, and there's a lot of second homes and vacation homes here. We had a lot of private jet activity, and then the falls we would do flights into the Frank Church for hunting and things like that. So another really unique time in my life where I learned a lot about, again, customer service and being of service and helping people, and kind of what's important in life, what gets you where you want to be.
Yeah. Just connecting with some of those people, just,
Absolutely.
No,
Yep.
I hear you.
Yep. And there's so much to learn. That's kind of my whole goal in life, is to learn from other people and study what did they do to get where they are, and how can I bring that into my life.
The highs and the lows, the trials and tribulations we go through, the scars, the battle wounds we acquire, some of the things we had to go through to get those, we wouldn't want to have to do again, but it
Sure.
makes us who we are. It makes us, it's like nothing good and amazing comes easy,
Correct.
mean, diamonds go through extreme heat and pressure.
Exactly. Yeah.
A sword is sharpened through intense heat and pounding.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, you've gone through some stuff that's like, I bet it was tough, and I bet there were some things you would never want to have to, relive or wish on anybody else. But it made you who you are, and that's what makes you you, and that's what makes you great. Is that
exactly? Yeah, and I wouldn't change it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do it again, but I definitely wouldn't change a thing. That's for sure. Yep. I wouldn't be where I am. So, given that, tell us about DR's life.
So I graduated in '91. And I was a rodeo dude. That's what I did. Spent a lot of time in the arena, riding horses, roping. And after high school, I kind of wanted to take it to the next level and see how competitive I could be. I wasn't, school wasn't something I was super crazy about. Classroom learning style for me, not a good fit. I'm a lot more of an interactive kind of guy. I want to be engaged. I want to be talking, asking questions, let me get some hands on. And, so my idea is I was not going to go to college. I was going to kind of go learn a trade or get into a career, get going, and focus on rodeo. I was an apprentice electrician. That's what I started doing, and the rodeo thing was good. I got after it that summer, but then my number one horse, she took an injury. And it kind of changed a little bit the dynamic of where I was at being competitive. In the timed event world of rodeo, it's all about what you're riding and your confidence level and that trust level. And so that got shaken a little bit. So things kind of changed a little bit in my dynamic of that, but I still craved it, still trying to make it happen. And then I realized working for a living at that age, I wasn't quite ready for the 45-hour, 50-hour weeks, just going to work. And then and the other thing too is I was starting to realize is that I'm a people person. I need to be interacting with people, and going and wiring houses all day and being in the trenches and so forth. It really was starting to make me realize that wasn't something I could see myself doing on the long haul. So a buddy of mine at the time called me up and just said, "Hey man, I'm heading to college, going to college rodeo. Got to join me." And that sounded pretty good. The idea of going through college and having something to look forward to, on the weekends and getting to compete at that level. And there was a lot of good dudes and people who were heading to college or that were already there. So yeah, I just shifted gears after a year of being out working, and I saved up money and I paid my next 2 years through school. I went 2 years, Treasure Valley Community College, and then I held out another year because I felt like I needed to make some money and had some things I needed to kind of figure out with how I wanted to spend my last 2 years, because I kind of got the gen ed stuff done, but I needed to really dial in what I wanted to focus on. And so I worked for that year. And one of the things I did through college and summers especially was I painted. I worked for a paint contractor and learned all of that, commercial, residential, custom home stuff, all that, and got to learn how to work with a lot of the subcontractors and just being around that environment. But through college, I always had a job. I was always working. Always had something I had to do, and it was good though. It kept me busy, kept me out of trouble. Because I mean, if I was going to work, I was studying. If I wasn't studying, I was going to class. If I wasn't going to class, I was going to work. So I didn't have a lot of time to go dink around. I kind of wanted to get it done. You know, college for me was a good time. I enjoyed it, but you know, I didn't want to hang out any longer than I had to, and so and I got after it. And my senior year was pretty intense with credits, so I could get it done, and I just worked my butt off and graduated with my bachelor's in business communications and knocked that out in a total of 4 years of school with the breaks in between. And no, it was good, man. I learned a lot. College was a neat experience, but I was definitely ready for the real world. I was ready to get out. And you know, one thing that I kind of learned in college is you know, nobody cared who you were. Nobody cared if you were in class or not. Professors, they really didn't care. They were like, you show up, it's on you. It's, you know,
your money.
And and of course, me paying for a lot of this, I realized, okay, I want to be here, get this done. And so yeah, but it was cool. I had some neat jobs through college. Like I pumped gas 1 year because we were on Oregon, so you can't pump your own gas. So me and one of the other rodeo buddies, we were known as the singing cowboys. We were always singing some kind of song. Like, hey, you know this one tune? Oh yeah, we'd sing it. So I mean, we had a good time while we were doing that. And then I did. I worked at a feedlot for 1 year. Worked at a detail shop, auto car wash detail shop. I kind of was overseeing, making sure all the rigs were ready to go, and I would get on the microphone as they come through the car wash, because people would go and be out of their cars waiting in the waiting room. But I would get on the microphone and we'd have to announce, hey, we got a 1987 Chevy Silverado clean and ready to go. And I had a lot of fun with that, because I mean, we would do different impersonations. We would do different impersonations, and we would, we just kept people laughing. So you know, when you're doing that kind of stuff, you gotta throw some entertainment in there.
Right. Yeah. Break up the.
Yeah, totally. But that's how we did that, and just had fun with it. But yeah, I knocked out college, and then after college, I kind of decided I was going to jump into the construction world. I kind of went back to painting because that's what I knew. I knew how to make money at it. And worked and did that. Ended up getting involved with a contractor, helping him through some stuff, doing some project management type jobs, and helped with just dealing with the owners and the people who were like trying to figure out the design layout. I was helping everything from helping them pick the right lot to helping them pick the right colors,
Oh, wow.
And I worked with 2 or 3 different homeowners during that phase, because he was just in need of help just for that time. And
sure.
And then I kind of was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. And a buddy of mine and I started kind of our own paint business, and we did that for a while, and that was a good deal. But I was bored, basically. I needed challenges. I needed to like start doing the things that I learned and like had some exposure to in college with business and marketing and communication skills, and applying those things and dealing with people. Again, I was realizing I was at a job site and I wasn't engaged enough with the people and the things that drive and motivate me. So I focused on looking for opportunities. But anyway, I was working on a guy's house, and the Idaho Center was relatively new, 98 is when it kind of got going. And I had an opportunity. He said, hey, I think you need to go down and talk to the director. They're looking for someone. They want to mold and shape them into being a director of ops and a production manager.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
how old were you at this time? How old were you at this point?
When I took that job, I was 26.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And what happened was what happened was I got out of college and I was just kind of doing whatever, painting, making some money. And then I was kind of chasing my bull riding career and seeing where I could take that. I kind of got into that towards the end of college, hung up the ropes per se on the time event side and was chasing the bull riding career. And then I was in the practice pen one day, made a total rookie move, got busted up pretty good. And I took a shot, just boom, right here with the horn, busted me up. And that's when I realized, I was like, I need to kind of get started with this degree I have and get going on something.
Right.
And the timing of this guy introducing me to an opportunity at the Idaho Center was perfect. And so I went down there and I visited with them, and they just basically said, hey, we're going to give you a shot at this. We're going to coach you and want you to shadow us. And we'll give you 3 months of that. And then for the next 3 months, you need to show us that you can take this and run with it, because while we're focusing on the future, we need someone who can focus on the now. And I took it and I ran with it. And it was interesting because all of a sudden I was this 26-year-old guy. I had braces because I busted my jaw. I had braces for the second time in my life. I had them in high school. And so here I was. I looked like I was 18, and I'm dealing with people coming in from all over the place, all over the world, coming in, putting on these shows, doing tour production guys. And they would meet me and they'd just be kind of like, really? You're the guy we've been talking to, communicating with via phone,
right.
email, what have you. And okay. And who's this kid? Who's this kid right behind the ears? And, but I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot about dealing with people, negotiating with people. I had an amazing mentor. His name was Peter Jackson. He was an English fellow, big time in the music industry. He was Eric Clapton's tour manager for a lot of years.
Sure.
And so he was kind of very well known. Like, you're in that industry and the music side of things, and people know Peter Jackson.
And did you meet him early on?
So he was there. And he was kind of the main draw for the venue of bringing in acts.
Gotcha.
Because of his connections. And super cool guy.
Wow.
And he kind of would just coach me and prepare me how to deal with different groups, how to deal with what was coming, because he kind of knew about them and knew what they were going to be like. And he really taught me, how to negotiate, how to they would come in and he would basically be like, hey, these guys are going to come in. They're going to try to see if they can eat your lunch. They're going to try to see if they can eat you up. And they're going to want you to think that, because they're going to want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it. And it's kind of that saying, they can chew on you, but they can't eat you.
Right. Yeah.
And he really taught me that mindset of how to deal with those folks. And because it was hard to take me serious because I looked so young.
Right.
And so,
and to put that into a little bit of context, you're 26.
Right.
And how big is this arena? How many seats?
I think Idaho Center is like 13,500. I mean, it's not huge, but it's pretty good size.
That's pretty huge. 13,000, and you're bringing in global acts.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. At 26, that's pretty impressive, really.
Yeah. And we had the amphitheater, which is considered to be like 10,500 to 11,000 seat, grass amphitheater. And,
right.
So, yeah, I mean, it was an amazing opportunity at that time to all of a sudden learn about production and putting things together and making things happen. And, I learned really quick while I was learning this industry, and I've taken this with me, continued, is that there's so much I didn't know, so much I still don't know, but I know how to find the people who do.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I had to focus on.
Right.
And And then I was kind of like the jail maker, bringing these different pieces in.
Yep.
And then when they would show up, I'd be like, okay, here you go. Here's what you need. Here's what, and then I was putting
Exactly.
out fires, and I was, you're walking around with the radio and an earpiece in
Yep.
all day long.
It's like being an
And
orchestra conductor.
yeah.
It's just, yeah, I
And
completely get it.
so, yeah, it was high pace, high energy. It was intense at times. Sometimes it was just a regular old trade show.
Sure.
But when you're doing concerts and you got a bunch of people, waiting out the door in a certain timeline, it's high pace, but it was fun, man.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And, being in that environment and having that opportunity to learn all the things I learned, meet the people I did, and take in everything. Cause I was working with people who'd been in the industry for 20, 30 years.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
And so that was, something that, man, I always will take with me in that time. But it was intense. And being in the industry, in the event industry, it's it kind of can just sit there and kind of just slowly drain you to a point,
Absolutely.
because you're working Monday through Fridays, office hours, dealing with the meetings and the scheduling and trying to get information distributed. And then you're working evenings and weekends on the events because
Right.
You're the go-to guy per se.
Yeah.
On the production side. I worked with a huge, I should say, I worked with a really nice group of people that were on the administrative side that we'd meet every week, and
Sure.
they were awesome people I had a chance to work with. Really a lot of neat people on the operations side as well. But I was responsible from everything from the gates out on the streets all the way to the center of the floor and what was going on there, making sure it was ready not only for the acts but for the public.
Right.
So I had quite a few hats I was wearing.
Yeah.
But had an amazing crew and people I worked with and that I respected a ton. But yeah, it got to a point. I was in it about 5 years, and I got married. And when I got married, I realized that what I wanted for our marriage and the kind of husband I wanted to be, it was going to be super tough to do it in that setting, in that environment. Because my wife was a school teacher, and our schedules were the opposite. I mean, we were both gone Monday through Friday during the days, but I would be gone a lot evenings, and I would be gone almost all the weekend.
Yeah. Right.
And so it kind of became clear to me after being married for about 6 months that it was time for me to move on. I really saw myself being in that industry for a long time, but I saw myself being in a great marriage more.
Yeah. Right.
And so I didn't really have a game plan. I kind of had a few things that I thought I could do. But I knew I could always go back to construction, and I knew I could always go back to some painting. And so I just finally said, hey, you know what? Because my idea was I was wanting to be involved as a director, and the guy who was a director said, someday I want you to take my place. But his timeline and my timeline can be different.
Yeah.
He still had a run he wanted to make. And
Right.
And I just was like, I gotta go, it's
Sure.
time. So I got out. And so I went back to construction, jumped right into it. And to be honest with you, that's when I had the opportunity to be involved with some of the construction on the project management side. That's when I was working with the people some more so, and really started to see and understand, because I was dealing with subcontractors and timelines, seeing that whole process happen. And that's also when I decided that I'd just get my own little paint business going. It was right then after the IO Center. Kind of got ahead of myself, but yeah, I took everything I learned from the event industry,
right,
and I used it everywhere I went since.
Yeah.
To this day, I still rely on that.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of a systems guy. Like I like to have a system of how I do things, how I keep track of things. I don't like trying to keep it in my head, or I don't like just winging it too much, in the sense of knowing how I'm going to get stuff done.
Yep.
Because I had to have systems in place to get those events done in the time I had.
Exactly.
And so I continue to use that, but yeah, we got married and went back to construction. I was kind of figuring out what my next move was, and then And then I thought, I became really good friends with some of the guys in law enforcement and some of the guys in the fire department. And I thought I was going to go into law enforcement, to be honest with you, because the idea of going to work and at the end of the day feeling like, man, I really did something. I really did something for my community. I did something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of ride-alongs, and I was drawn to that. I thought I was going to, I tested, I did my physical, my written. I was getting an interview with Meridian in Boise. Had guys there that were rooting for me to get on with the departments. And then,
did you do the marriage test?
I don't think so.
Yeah. How was that conversation?
The home. Yeah. The wife test. Yeah. She was trying to be a good supportive wife.
Sure. That's awesome.
She was trying to be a good supportive wife, but you could tell let me just put it this way. So a buddy of mine calls me right when I'm getting ready to go do some interviews. He says, there's this banking gig as this relationship manager type position, and I think you ought to interview for me. I think you'd be great. You're like in and out of the office. You're dealing with business people, and you're learning about businesses, help people out.
Right.
And of course, there's amazing benefits. Dude, it's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And my wife's like, yeah.
I like that one better.
So I still owe him a butt whipping on that. Yeah, I took that job. And it was an experience. Let me put it that way. I met some really great people. I learned a lot about business, about finance.
Sure.
But I was also in corporate America, and man, I'm kind of the black sheep to corporate America sales stuff. Like corporate sales is hero today, zero tomorrow.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, hey, you crushed it last week, but what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
What's going on right now? Because today we want to see more.
Absolutely. Yep. What you did yesterday is meaningless.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely dispensable.
Yeah. And you're a number on a spreadsheet, right?
No question. Yep.
And so I had a hard time with the rah-rah high five stuff. That was, and luckily I had a really, an awesome guy I worked for. He was my manager at the time, Dale, and him and I had some really good heart-to-hearts talking about what made things work for us, like how were we wired and how we were going to take these goals, but turn them into something that worked for us. And so we kind of rap on it and talk, and then we'd make a plan and we'd move forward. And it was great. He was a great guy to work with. He always had a really neat perspective on things and had a background in that. And so he helped kind of, help me get my mind right sometimes. But it was a tough time. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it was one of the only times in my life that I can really remember going to work, driving to work, and I was having to convince myself how to get through the day.
Yes.
Because it was so far from where I'd ever pictured myself being.
Yep.
I was having to pump myself up. Okay, I gotta get through this day. I just gotta have a good attitude. It was tough. It was not a good fit for me. But here's the thing. So I was in it 3 years, and I got a phone call, and all of a sudden somebody said, so let me back up. So I got to a point where I was in a low spot, a low place. And we'll talk about that in another session.
Sure.
Of what that looked like. But I had to realize that I needed to be thankful and make the most of where I was at before I was going to be given a chance at anything more.
Yep, absolutely.
And the good Lord basically just said to me, until you do and make the most of what I've given you, why would I give you more? It would be like spoiling a child.
Right.
It would be rewarding him for bad behavior, for a poor attitude.
Yep.
And I just realized I got to change it. And I switched it, literally just boom. One day I just said, I'm changing this. And I started showing up, and I just started swinging for the bleachers.
Yeah.
and I just started saying, okay, you know what? I don't have to like everything I got going on here, what I got to do. I don't like maybe, how they're telling me to do it. I want to make it work. We're going to go, and I'm going to swing for the bleachers every day. I'm going to be the first one to work. I'm going to be the last one to leave. And I'm going to put the time in, and I'm going to start grinding, and and I'm going to make this work for me. So I went from a place of super low to I started to just have like, I'm a banker.
Right.
This is me now.
Yep.
And I accepted it, and I just moved forward. And for the next 3 months, man, things start clicking, things start happening. I started all of a sudden bringing deals to the table, and I started letting the business bankers downtown Boise know, hey, I got a deal coming in. You need to look at this. I think this is something we need to make happen. And all of a sudden, I was getting calls like from the big dog saying, hey, atta boy, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is it. This is where I'm at. I'm going to raise my kids. This is where I'm going to be. And then I got a phone call.
And that was a 3-month span roughly from the time you kind of flipped that switch to the day this phone call comes in.
Yes.
About 3 months. Wow.
About 3 months. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, there's this ranch that has this lodge. They've tried to make a go at it in kind of this guest ranch guiding type stuff. They've started and stopped a ton. They've had a hard time finding the right fit. You know, they either found somebody that understood hospitality but didn't understand business, or they found somebody who understood guiding but didn't know really how to market it, or you know, or just whatever the reason. It kept starting and stopping, and they were like, we heard you may be interested. We heard you're a guy that has a background with horses. You're a hunter. You're an outdoorsman. You know business, and that's what we're looking for. And all of a sudden, the time I was at the bank became very clear to me why I was there.
Yeah.
I needed it, man. I needed to understand business at a different level. I needed to understand finance.
Yeah.
I need to understand return on investment. I need to understand those things and those different places you can be spending money in your business and then not see it.
Right.
So all of a sudden, yeah, man, I'm like, babe, we've got this opportunity. I have an opportunity to be a mountain man. We're going to go live in the mountains. It's about 2.5 hours from Boise. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. The closest town's 30 miles away. And oh, by the way, I really want to do this. And we were actually right in the, we had already had our first son while I was at the bank. Our second one was on the way.
Wow.
And I had already committed to her. She'd be stay-at-home mom when we started having kids. So she was already being a mom and loving it. And we were loving our little life. And then it was like, let's do this. And she was like, I'm in.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was cool, man. Next thing I know, we're loading up. Got my friends and my family. We were helping us move, and we move up there. And we basically took a destination that nobody knew about in Idaho, you know, quite a ways from an airport. I mean, you know, anybody who was going to come to this was going to have to fly and rent and drive up for 2.5, 3 hours.
Right.
And we were there for 10 years. And I was the guy. The first 5 years, I got up and made breakfast, and then I went out with the guests, with the horses. And then my wife would come in and get lunch prepped. She'd either have a baby in her belly or on her back, or sometimes both. And we were the marketers, the managers, the cooks, the cleaners, the entertainers. We were it.
Wow.
And we did that for the first 5 to 6 years, and then we started hiring some help. Because I was like at a point where I was like, I'm just getting burnt out. I can't handle it.
Sure.
And so we started hiring some help. And
how many guests were you entertaining at a time at that point?
So not a large number, because that was kind of one of the things that ended up being our handicap, or Achilles tendon is because of our lodge and the dynamics of the facility. Sure. Our average group size was 8. Sometimes it was maybe only 6. Sometimes it was 12.
Yeah, but the level of service you can provide with a group that small is.
Yeah, I mean, 8 to 10 was kind of the magic number usually. That's awesome. But when we did things, man, we really connected.
Right.
And the thing that we did and how we did it is I started to really understand and realize that what I loved about meeting people was connecting with them beyond the surface stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Because, you know, what does everybody do? I mean, I watched it 100 times at the table. People meet, you know, different groups meet each other, and you're like, oh, so what do you do? Where are you from? And you know, everybody's doing that.
All that superficial.
Yeah. And I kind of realized real quick that I think that's all the really, really neat stuff. And I like to hear about it, but I'm like, but really, who are you? What do you like to do when you're not working? Like, what's the stuff you're passionate about? You know, tell me about your family, your background, tell me where you grew up. And when you start finding out, you know, who they are, that's when I realized that, like, it opened it up, like, amazing opportunities, these endless possibilities of friendships and business and these lifelong experiences that will stick with you forever, and stories to share and tell. So yeah, we were there and we made a run at it. This thing, I started hiring more help. They started growing, really started learning a lot, teaming up with Idaho, Destination Idaho and Idaho State Tourism and people we both know, and met a lot of amazing people that were helping promote us. And then we kind of outgrew the facilities. We got to a point in the last 2 years where we needed to do something different with the facilities. We needed to add on some cabins and get this thing to the next level. And it was ready. I was keeping track of the dollars and cents every time I get a call. And at the end of the summer, I would be like, this is how many dollars I turned away.
Oh, wow.
And it became pretty impressive, the amount of dollars we were turning away, because it let me know that all those years of grinding, that it became worthwhile.
Paid off. Yeah, absolutely.
But the problem that we ran into is that the ranch was excited for us, and they really thought it was great what we achieved, but they didn't really want to grow. And it needed to become something where, you know, they had the opportunity to still use it for their needs, and the business outgrew all that.
Right.
And so I started realizing the writing was on the wall. That's like, you know, either I just maintain or it's time to move on. And, you know, I'm not good at just kind of hitting that ceiling and then staying there. I want something to chase. And I had 3 boys then.
Right.
You know, and my wife was really kind of craving the idea of going back to teaching.
Oh, sure.
And so some of our goals and our priorities were starting to change. I wanted to give my boys, get them in some activities and have them be in an environment where they could start to do things that I got to do as a kid. And being out there was amazing. They were doing stuff that so many kids don't do ever. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but it was like, okay, we need to consider the idea of what the next chapter of life looks like.
Sure. Yeah.
And so there we were. We went from a guest ranch guide service to all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're moving to McCall, and she's going to get to teaching again, get back to teaching. We'll get the boys in a good school and get them involved with stuff. And then I had started to help some of the guests find property, and they were falling in love with Idaho. And so I was just like, hey, let me go see what I can find and connect with somebody. And then next thing I knew, I was learning about it, seeing it. And I was like, you know, this is cool. I think this is something that I'd like to learn more about and get involved with. And with everything that I'd learned with getting information, finding the right pieces, connecting the dots, that's real estate. It's bringing that stuff to people so they can make great decisions. And then also just all the time sitting there learning about people, who they are, what's made them, who, shaped and molded them and so forth. That's what's so amazing when you get to know people and what their goals are, and you learn more about them and how you connect. And that's the stuff that, man, I crave it.
Yep. You can tell. What made you choose McCall? From where you were, it's quite a ways from here. You could have chosen any place.
So I mean, it's about an hour and 15-minute drive from the ranch to here. And when we would need supplies or some groceries, or also maybe we had a day off and we could just like go and plug. Yep. My in-laws had retired here, and it was always our go-to. It was like we'd escape, because if I didn't leave the ranch, when you live where you work and work where you live, dude, you never get away from it.
Yeah.
And I'm bad about that anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we would go to McCall, and it was our escape. It was like, go get on the lake with the boys, play on the paddle boards, go ride bikes, go just chill out right by the pool. And so it was kind of a place we had just fallen in love with, man. Sure. And then with the family here, and then getting to know some guys and people I'd done business with, it kind of started making sense. Like, we thought, if we could ever make a go of what life could be like in McCall, we at least wanted to say we tried.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we ended up here. And so, yeah, man, I've been hustling it, and now I'm working the real estate side, and it's like anything.
Dark in the water here.
Oh, yeah.
Real estate's a tough one,
buddy.
I mean, if there's a place to be in real estate, I think this is a good place to be.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's as good as any per se. And for my family, the one thing I've learned is that, if my family's doing good, I'm doing good.
Exactly.
And if they're not doing good, it's hard to enjoy anything.
No question.
But yeah, man, that's kind of some of my background. It's kind of what's molded and shaped me. It's what has brought me to the point of when we cross paths. It's brought me to the point of why also we realized we wanted to do something similar, and why this podcast even became real. It's just like it's on both of our hearts to like. Yep. We want to talk about things we're all dealing with, things we go through, tough decisions we make, what makes and molds and shapes us, the battle wounds and scars we have, and then and then let other people in on it and hope it relates. Yep.
It's funny because all of those topics that we've decided that we want to talk about and cover, and how do we how that appeals to other people. I wish I would have learned earlier or sooner in my kids' lives. I wish I would have learned these things when my children were your kids' age, where you really have an opportunity to instill things in them at such a young age that it just becomes them.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that I missed out on that opportunity with almost all of them. I mean, our one child left at home is 15 now, but so she's had to deal with me for the last 5 to 7 years of discovering my true, feelings and all that kind of thing. But I'm so excited for you in that respect that you get to do this and share it with your boys that are all under 12?
Yeah, 12, 8, 10, and 12.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's such a great opportunity. And I can't wait to see where this goes. This is gonna be really exciting and fun. And the way you and I crossed paths, is so random and so weird that
Thank you, Miss Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way for me to look at it other than it was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
it just was because of how it happened and so random. With literally a 30-minute notice, I get asked to come to this meeting. I had no reason whatsoever to go.
Yeah.
But I just was like, I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And that was it. And literally, what's it been? 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we've known each other our whole lives.
Yep, for sure.
It's so crazy to me. And I think it's one of the reasons I get so excited about doing this.
Yeah.
Because it just feels so right.
Well, the things that we experienced and the things we go through is what makes life grand, man. Because if it was just all sunshine and rainbows,
right?
You don't learn when you don't. Unfortunately, you don't learn when it's all going right. You're learning when it's going wrong.
100%. And that in and of itself will be a whole episode just on that.
Yeah.
We could spend an hour talking about being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and growth, and how all that happens and under what conditions, and just another one of those things that I can't wait to talk about and dig into and engage with people on. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the thing is sharing our stories, telling our stories, or the stories we've heard on these topics is what makes it great. Because when you hear stories, it's easy to relate. Somebody's opinion is fine,
right?
But it's really neat when you get to hear a story of why. The
whys. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Appreciate this time. I hope you all enjoyed the opportunity just to learn a little bit more about Scott and I, what's kind of, got us to this point and kind of our background.
Yep.
We've both been very fortunate and blessed to not only go through some ups and downs and things that that we will talk about, but some of the people we met and how it's touched our lives, sharing that. And that's what it's about, and be willing to share and just go through that. So Scott, appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Same with you, brother. And everybody, if you feel like it and you enjoyed this, I know we got a little long in the tooth here, but if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. You can check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. We'll be on iTunes soon. So please dig in, share it with other people. And then, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, just keep stepping.
Okay, just keep stepping.